The emergency beacon cut through the void like a scream in the darkness. Captain Sarah Chen felt the hairs on her neck rise as the distress signal reached the bridge of the UES Retribution, humanity's newest deep space patrol vessel. The message was fragmented, desperate, and transmitted on frequencies that no human technology should have been able to decode. "Captain, we're picking up what appears to be an alien distress call," reported Lieutenant Martinez, his voice tight with uncertainty. "The signal is weak, but our AI is translating it in real time." Sarah leaned forward in her command chair, studying the holographic display that materialized before them. The translation flickered as the ship's quantum computers worked to decipher the alien language, but the meaning became chillingly clear. "Help us! The Devourers come! Our children! Please! Anyone who receives this message! We are the Zalani of the Kepler 442 system. Our defenses have failed. They consume everything. If you can hear this, stay away. Save yourselves." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. Sarah had been commanding deep space missions for 8 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. First contact protocols demanded immediate consultation with Earth Command, but something in that alien voice spoke to her on a primal level. "Time to reach their position?" she asked, though she already knew the answer would change everything. 14 hours at maximum burn, Captain," replied the navigation officer. "But, Captain, our orders are to maintain patrol route Gamma 7. Earth Command specifically instructed us to avoid any unknown alien activity." Sarah stared at the tactical display showing their current position relative to the Kepler 442 system. The Retribution was designed for exploration and patrol, not combat. Their crew of 847 included scientists, engineers, and diplomats alongside military personnel. They were humanity's ambassadors to the stars, not warriors. But the desperation in that alien transmission haunted her. "Communications? Can you clean up that signal? I want to know exactly what we're dealing with," Sarah ordered. Chief Petty Officer Kim worked frantically at her station, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple transmission sources from the system. The aliens, the Zalani, they're broadcasting on dozens of frequencies. It's like they're screaming into space, hoping someone, anyone, will hear them." The main display shifted to show an enhanced view of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made several crew members gasp. The system's fourth planet, presumably the Zalani homeworld, was surrounded by what looked like a massive cloud of metallic objects. Even from 14 hours away, their sensors could detect the enormous energy signatures. "My God," whispered Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist. "Captain, those energy readings, whatever is attacking that planet, it's consuming massive amounts of matter. The spectral analysis suggests they're literally eating the planet's surface." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. In all of humanity's expansion into space, they had encountered no intelligent alien life. Earth scientists had theorized about the Great Silence, wondering why the universe seemed so empty of other civilizations. Now, staring at the evidence of an ongoing alien war, she wondered if they had their answer. "Captain," Lieutenant Martinez spoke up again, "I'm detecting something else. Long-range sensors are picking up movement in adjacent systems. Whatever these Devourers are, the Zalani system isn't their only target. They're moving through that entire sector like a plague." Sarah stood and walked to the main display, studying the tactical information. The mathematics were brutal. If these Devourers continued their current trajectory, they would eventually reach systems that humanity had already marked for colonization. Her decision would affect not just the unknown aliens crying for help, but potentially the future of human expansion into space. "Communications, patch me through to all department heads. Emergency meeting in Conference Room Alpha in 10 minutes, Sarah announced. "And get me a secure channel to Earth Command, Priority Alpha." As the crew bustled to carry out her orders, Sarah remained at the display, watching the distant points of light that represented an alien civilization's death throes. The weight of command had never felt heavier. Earth Command's response came faster than expected. Admiral Rebecca Torres appeared on the main screen, her weathered face stern with authority. "Captain Chen, I've reviewed your preliminary report. Our xenobiology teams are analyzing the data you transmitted." "Admiral, we need to discuss our options. That distress call—" "Captain," Torres interrupted, "let me be clear. The Retribution is not equipped for combat against unknown alien forces. Your primary mission is the safety of your crew and the protection of human interests." Sarah felt her jaw clench. "With respect, Admiral, isn't first contact a human interest? And what about basic humanitarian principles?" "Captain, we know nothing about these aliens. For all we know, this could be an elaborate trap. I'm ordering you to maintain your current patrol route and continue monitoring the situation from a safe distance." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah staring at a blank screen. She turned to find her senior staff gathered around the conference table, their faces reflecting the same moral conflict she felt burning in her chest. "You all heard the Admiral's orders," Sarah said quietly. "But I want everyone's honest assessment of our capabilities and options." Commander James Walsh, her executive officer, spoke first. "Captain, our weapons systems are primarily designed for asteroid mining and debris clearing. We have plasma cutters, fusion charges, and railguns, but nothing designed for ship-to-ship combat." "However," added Chief Engineer Rodriguez, "our industrial fabricators could modify those systems. Given enough time and raw materials, we could significantly upgrade our offensive capabilities." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "Captain, I've been analyzing the alien transmissions. The Zalani appear to be a peaceful species. Their distress calls include mathematical proofs and scientific data that suggest a highly advanced but non-militaristic civilization. They're dying because they were never prepared for something like this." "And what about the Devourers?" Sarah asked. "Unknown. But based on the energy signatures and the rate at which they're consuming matter, they appear to be some kind of self-replicating mechanism. Perhaps artificial intelligence run amok, or a biological species that has evolved beyond the need for traditional resources." Lieutenant Commander Park, the tactical officer, cleared his throat. "Captain, I've run simulations based on our limited data. If we were to engage these Devourers, our chances of survival are less than 30%. But, Sarah prompted. "But if we don't engage them and they continue their current expansion pattern, they'll reach human space within 50 years. Every system they consume makes them stronger. What's happening to the Zalani could eventually happen to Earth." The conference room fell silent. Sarah looked around the table at the faces of her senior staff, seeing her own resolve reflected in their eyes. These weren't just military officers following orders. They were human beings confronted with a choice that would define their species' place in the universe. "There's something else," Dr. Vasquez added softly. "The Zalani transmissions include data about their children. They have evacuation ships carrying their young, but the Devourers are hunting them down systematically. Captain, there are alien children dying out there while we debate." Sarah closed her eyes, thinking of her own daughter back on Earth. When she opened them, her decision was clear. "Mr. Rodriguez, how long would it take to modify our systems for combat?" 12 hours minimum, Captain. But if we're going to do this, we need to start immediately." Sarah stood, feeling the weight of command settle onto her shoulders like armor. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to violate direct orders from Earth Command. Anyone who wants to object or request transfer to a shuttle back to the nearest station can do so now without prejudice." No one moved. "Very well. Mr. Rodriguez, begin weapon modifications immediately. Dr. Vasquez, I want to know everything about Zalani physiology and technology. Mr. Park, develop battle strategies based on every scrap of data we have. Mr. Walsh, prepare the crew for combat operations." As her staff dispersed to carry out the orders, Sarah remained alone in the conference room, staring out at the stars. In a few hours, the Retribution would become humanity's first warship in an interstellar conflict. She only hoped they would live long enough to make a difference. The ship's engines roared to life, changing course toward a system where aliens were crying for help and monsters waited in the darkness. Humanity was about to announce its presence to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, and Captain Sarah Chen prayed she was making the right choice for her species and for the unknown aliens who needed their help. In the depths of space, the distress signals continued, growing weaker with each passing hour as the Devourers consumed another world. But for the first time since the attack began, the Zilani were no longer alone. Help was coming, carried by a species that had never learned to ignore a cry for help, no matter how dangerous the response might be. The Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and what they found exceeded their worst nightmares. The once beautiful blue world of the Zilani was now a patchwork of gray scars and glowing wounds, where massive machines devoured everything in their path. The planet's surface looked like it had been attacked by a swarm of mechanical locusts the size of cities. "Jesus Christ," whispered Lieutenant Martinez as the tactical display updated with new sensor data. "Captain, I'm reading thousands of those things. They're everywhere." Captain Sarah Chen gripped her command chair as the magnitude of the situation became clear. The Devourers weren't just ships, they were vast, organic-looking constructs that seemed to grow and multiply as they consumed matter. Some were the size of skyscrapers, others dwarfed entire mountains. They moved across the planet's surface like a cancer, leaving nothing but bare rock and strange metallic structures in their wake. "Captain, incoming transmission from the planet's surface," reported Communications Officer Kim. "It's weak, but I'm getting a clear signal." "Put it through." The voice that emerged from the speakers was melodic despite its desperation, with harmonics that suggested the speaker had multiple vocal cords. "Unknown vessel, this is Harmonizer Zethara of the Zilani Collective. We detect your approach. Please, you must flee immediately. The Devourers will sense your presence and add your technology to their own. We cannot bear the responsibility of another species' destruction." Sarah exchanged glances with her executive officer. Even facing annihilation, these aliens were more concerned about humanity's safety than their own rescue. "Harmonizer Zethara, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Retribution. We received your distress signal. What is your current situation?" There was a long pause before the alien responded, and when he did, disbelief colored his harmonic voice. You came to help us? But you are unknown to us. Your technology signature is primitive compared to ours, yet you risk everything for strangers?" "That's what we do," Sarah replied simply. "Now tell me about your defenses and evacuations. Our military was not designed for such brutality. We have 17 evacuation ships carrying our younglings and essential genetic archives, but the Devourers hunt them relentlessly. Our remaining defense platforms can protect them for perhaps 6 more hours before they fall." Dr. Vasquez leaned over Sarah's shoulder. "Captain, I'm analyzing the Devourer technology through our sensors. They appear to be self-replicating von Neumann machines, but with biological components. They're not just consuming matter, they're learning from every species they encounter and incorporating their knowledge." "Weaknesses?" Sarah asked. "Unknown, but they seem to have difficulty adapting to completely new forms of technology. Each time they encounter something novel, there's a brief period where they're vulnerable while they analyze and incorporate it." Sarah nodded, turning back to the communication. "Zethara, we need tactical information about these Devourers. What have you learned about their weaknesses?" "Weaknesses?" The alien's voice carried what might have been bitter laughter. "Captain Chen, We have studied these entities for 63 cycles since they first appeared in our outer systems. They adapt to every weapon, every strategy, every defense. They consumed the Kethmori Empire in 14 cycles. The vast reaches of Solar in 29. We are simply the latest to fall. You said they adapt to every weapon, Sarah said, her tactical mind racing. But they've never encountered human weapons, have they? Commander Walsh caught her meaning immediately. Captain, if these things need time to analyze new technology. Exactly. Mr. Rodriguez, status on our weapon modifications? Chief Engineer Rodriguez's voice came over the comm from the engineering bay. Weapons are online, Captain. I've converted our mining plasma cutters into focused beam weapons, and our railguns are loaded with tungsten penetrators. It's not much against those things, but it might buy us some time. Captain, interrupted Lieutenant Park from the tactical station, I'm detecting movement from the Devourers. Several large constructs are breaking off from the main swarm and heading toward the evacuation ships. Sarah watched the display as massive alien machines, each one larger than the Retribution, began pursuing the fleeing Zalani vessels. The evacuation ships were graceful, organic-looking craft that moved like living things, but they were no match for the relentless pursuit of the Devourers. Time to intercept? 7 minutes if we go to maximum burn, Park replied. Do it. All hands. Prepare for combat. This is not a drill. The Retribution's engines roared to maximum output as the ship raced toward the fleeing Zalani. Through the viewports, the crew could see the beauty of the alien evacuation ships, living art that sang through space with elegant curves and bioluminescent panels that pulsed like heartbeats. Captain, the lead evacuation ship is sending us a transmission, Kim reported. Unknown protectors, you must not sacrifice yourselves for us, came a new voice, younger and more melodic than Zethara's. I am Childkeeper Melthara. Our younglings aboard these ships represent the future of our species, but we cannot accept your deaths for our salvation. Childkeeper, this is Captain Chen. Get your ships ready to follow our lead. We're going to punch a hole through their formation. But how can your single vessel stand against constructs that destroyed our entire fleet? Sarah smiled grimly. Because we're humans, and we're very good at breaking things that need breaking. The first Devourer construct came into weapons range, a twisted amalgamation of metal and flesh that looked like a mechanical spider crossed with a nightmare. It was easily 3 times the size of the Retribution, with dozens of weapon ports and what looked like harvesting appendages designed to tear apart other ships. Mr. Park, target their primary weapons cluster. Fire when ready. The Retribution's modified plasma cutters lanced out, striking the Devourer construct with focused beams of stellar fire. The alien machine reeled from the impact, its adaptive systems clearly struggling to analyze the unfamiliar human technology. Direct hit, Captain! Their adaptive shielding is fluctuating. They don't know how to counter our plasma frequency. Press the advantage. All weapons, continuous fire. The space around the Devourer construct lit up as the Retribution unleashed everything it had. Railgun projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed punched through the alien's hull, while plasma beams carved deep gouges in its superstructure. For a brief, glorious moment, it seemed like David might actually defeat Goliath. Then the construct began to change. Captain, it's adapting! Park shouted. Their hull is restructuring to deflect our plasma beams, and they're developing some kind of magnetic field to deflect the railgun projectiles. How long do we have? Based on current adaptation rate, maybe 90 seconds before they're completely immune to our weapons. Sarah's mind raced through their options. One ship against thousands of adaptive alien machines. It should have been hopeless. But the Zalani evacuation ships were counting on them, and Sarah had not come this far to watch alien children die while she could still fight. Mr. Rodriguez, can you overload our plasma cutters? Push them beyond safe parameters? Captain. If I do that, we'll get one massive shot before they burn out completely. After that, we'll be down to railguns only. Do it. Mr. Park, I want you to target their central processing core. If these things need time to adapt, let's see how they handle having their brains scrambled. The Retribution dove toward the massive Devourer construct, dodging return fire from weapons that seemed to grow and reshape themselves in real time. The alien machine was learning to fight them even as the battle progressed, but its very adaptability might be its weakness. Plasma cutters at 200% safe capacity, Captain, Rodriguez announced. She's going to blow apart if we hold this much longer. Fire! The overloaded plasma cutters unleashed a beam of raw, stellar fire that lit up space like a miniature star. The focused energy struck the Devourer's central processing core and punched straight through, emerging from the other side in a shower of sparks and alien blood. The massive construct shuddered, its adaptive systems failing as its central intelligence flickered and died. Smaller Devourer machines rushed to cannibalize the fallen giant, but the path to the evacuation ships was clear. Zalani vessels, this is Captain Chen. Move now! Follow our heading and don't look back! The graceful alien ships leaped forward, their organic engines leaving trails of bioluminescent fire as they raced toward safety. But even as they escaped, more Devourer constructs were rising from the planet's surface, their adaptive systems already incorporating countermeasures for human weapons. Captain, sensors are detecting massive movement from the main swarm, Park reported grimly. They're not just sending a few constructs after us anymore. They're mobilizing everything. Sarah watched the tactical display fill with red dots as thousands of Devourer machines turned their attention toward the human ship. They had bought the Zalani evacuation ships time to escape, but the cost was going to be the Retribution and everyone aboard her. All hands, this is the captain, Sarah announced over the ship's communication system. We came here to answer a distress call, and we've given the Zalani a chance to survive. I want you all to know that I've never been more proud to serve with any crew. We're about to show these machines what happens when you threaten innocent children in front of humans. But even as the crew prepared for their final battle, something unprecedented was happening in the space around them. The quantum communication array was lighting up with signals from across human space. Word of the Retribution's battle had reached Earth, and humanity's response was about to change everything. The cavalry was coming, and they were bringing the full wrath of a species that had never learned to abandon those in need. The Devourers had made a critical error. They had revealed themselves to the only species in the galaxy that considered protecting others worth dying for. The space around the Retribution suddenly exploded with light as dozens of human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel simultaneously. Captain Sarah Chen stared in disbelief at her tactical display as the cavalry arrived in the most spectacular fashion possible. Captain, this is Admiral Torres aboard the UES Vengeance, came the familiar voice over the communication array. Sorry we're late to the party. I hope you saved some for the rest of us. Sarah felt tears of relief streaming down her face as she counted the ships. The entire Fifth Fleet had come, along with vessels she didn't recognize. Experimental ships, retrofitted mining barges, even civilian transports that had been hastily armed for war. Admiral, how did you... Captain, your quantum communications were picked up by every monitoring station in human space. When Earth Command tried to suppress the information, the civilian networks picked it up. Word spread across every human colony, every ship, every station. You want to know what happened when humanity found out that our first contact with aliens was a cry for help? Torres chuckled grimly. We dropped everything and came running. Commander Walsh leaned over Sarah's shoulder. Captain, I'm reading weapon signatures on those ships that shouldn't exist yet. What exactly did they bring? Dr. Vasquez was frantically analyzing the incoming data. My God, Sarah, every weapons research project, every experimental technology, every theoretical design that was deemed too dangerous for deployment, they're all here. Humanity just went to war footing in less than 14 hours. The devourer swarm that had been converging on the retribution suddenly found themselves facing an entirely different kind of threat. The human fleet spread out in attack formations that had been developed through countless war games but never tested in real combat. All ships, this is Admiral Torres. Priority target is the protection of the Zalani evacuation vessels. Secondary objective is the complete elimination of the devourer threat. Remember, these things adapt to our weapons, so rotation protocols are in effect. No ship engages for more than 60 seconds with the same weapon system. The battle that followed would become legendary in both human and alien history. The experimental ship UES Prometheus unleashed weaponized black holes that tore through devourer constructs before they could adapt. The converted mining barge New Horizon used industrial nanobots that consumed the alien machines from the inside out. Even civilian ships contributed, using their cargo bays to deploy clouds of chaff that interfered with devourer sensors. But it was humanity's tactical doctrine that truly shocked the alien machines. Every human ship was programmed with the same rotating battle plan, switching weapons and tactics every few seconds to prevent the devourers from adapting. When plasma weapons became ineffective, they switched to kinetic projectiles. When those were countered, they deployed electromagnetic pulse weapons. The moment the aliens began to adapt to those, humanity switched to something completely different. "Captain Chen," came Harmonizer Zethara's voice over the communication array. "Your species." "How do you coordinate such complex battle strategies without telepathic links?" Sarah smiled as she watched a squadron of human fighters execute a perfect flanking maneuver against a construct the size of a city. "We practiced, Zethara. We've been preparing for war our entire evolutionary history. But you risk everything for strangers. This makes no tactical sense for a warrior species." "That's where you're wrong," Sarah replied, watching another devourer construct fall to concentrated fire from 3 different human ships. "We're not warriors because we love fighting. We're warriors because we love protecting. There's a difference." The tide of battle turned decisively when the UES Einstein deployed humanity's most closely guarded secret weapon, a device that could temporarily disrupt the quantum fields that allowed faster-than-light communication and computation. The massive devourer ships suddenly found themselves isolated from their collective intelligence, unable to share adaptation data between units. "Now!" Admiral Torres commanded. "All ships! Full assault! They're blind and deaf!" The human fleet descended on the confused devourer constructs like a pack of wolves. Without their ability to rapidly adapt and coordinate, the alien machines were revealed to be surprisingly vulnerable to sustained attack. One by one, the massive constructs that had consumed entire civilizations fell to human ingenuity and determination. But the humans weren't content with just driving off the invaders. As the last devourer construct in the system was destroyed, Admiral Torres opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, begin planetary reconstruction operations. I want those Zalani back on their homeworld within the month." Sarah watched in amazement as the human fleet immediately transformed from a war armada into a reconstruction force. Medical ships moved to assist wounded Zalani, while engineering vessels began the massive task of repairing the damaged planet. It was the most human thing she had ever witnessed. The same species that had just unleashed devastating weapons was now working around the clock to heal the damage. "Captain Chen," Zethara's voice was filled with something that sounded like awe. "Your species has capabilities we never imagined. But I do not understand. Why do you help us rebuild? You owe us nothing." Sarah looked out at the damaged planet where human and Zalani crews were already working together to restore what the devourers had taken. "Because that's what neighbors do, Zethara. And as of today, we're neighbors." Over the following weeks, the reconstruction of the Zalani homeworld became a testament to human efficiency and alien gratitude. The Zalani, it turned out, were master biotechnologists whose living ships and organic cities put human engineering to shame. But they had never developed weapons or aggressive tactics because their species had evolved in isolation, never facing a threat that required violence. Humans, on the other hand, had spent millennia perfecting the art of war while somehow retaining their capacity for compassion. It was a combination that fascinated the Zalani scholars who studied their new allies. "Your species is a paradox," Harmonizer Zethara told Sarah as they stood in the reconstructed capital city of the Zalani homeworld. "You are simultaneously the most destructive and most protective species we have ever encountered." Sarah nodded, watching human children play alongside young Zalani in gardens that had been rebuilt using a combination of human engineering and Zalani biotechnology. "We learned long ago that sometimes you have to be willing to fight if you want to protect the things worth protecting." "And the Devourers? Your fleet has departed to hunt the remaining swarms?" "Every last one," Sarah confirmed. "Admiral Torres took the main fleet to track down the other Devourer swarms. Humanity doesn't leave jobs half-finished, especially when innocent species are at stake." Zethara was quiet for a long moment before speaking again. "Captain, there is something you should know. The Devourers were not natural creatures. They were created by a species called the Architects as a weapon of galactic cleansing. The Architects believed that only the strongest species deserved to survive, so they created the Devourers to eliminate what they considered inferior civilizations." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Where are these Architects now?" "Unknown. They vanished shortly after releasing the Devourers, leaving behind only automated systems to guide the swarm. But Captain, if they still exist somewhere in the galaxy, your species' actions here will have drawn their attention." Sarah looked up at the stars, where she could see the lights of human patrol ships maintaining watch over the Zalani system. "Then they'll learn what we learned today, Zethara. Humanity doesn't back down from bullies, no matter how big they are." The integration of human and Zalani societies proceeded at a pace that amazed both species. Within months, joint research stations were producing technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Zalani biotechnology merged with human engineering to create marvels that seemed like magic, living ships that could repair themselves, weapons that adapted to their users, even whole cities that grew rather than being built. But perhaps the most significant development was the formation of the Galactic Protection Alliance. Using Zalani communication networks, humanity reached out to other species that had survived Devourer attacks, offering protection and alliance. The response was overwhelming. Dozens of species that had been hiding in fear for generations suddenly found hope in the form of human warships and determination. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood on the bridge of the newest ship in the human fleet, the UES Harmony, a joint human-Zalani design that represented the best of both species. They were heading toward a system where another species was under attack by remnant Devourer forces. "Admiral," reported her new communications officer, a young Zalani named Keth Mira. "We're receiving distress calls from the Vorth Collective. The Devourers have broken through their outer defenses." Sarah smiled, feeling the familiar surge of determination that had driven her to disobey orders and save the Zalani. "Signal the fleet, Keth Mira. Tell them we're on our way." "Yes, Admiral. Should I inform them that help is coming?" Sarah looked out at the fleet of human and allied ships that followed in their wake, representatives of dozens of species that had learned to work together in the face of extinction. The galaxy was a dangerous place, but it was no longer empty of friends. "Tell them something better," Sarah said. "Tell them they're not alone anymore." The UES Harmony and her escort fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying hope to another species in need. Behind them, The Zilani homeworld thrived under the protection of the Galactic Protection Alliance, and in the depths of space, other species watched and waited, knowing that if the darkness ever came for them, humanity would answer the call. The galaxy had changed forever the day humans heard their first alien distress signal and decided to help. It was the beginning of an age where no species would face extinction alone, where the strong protected the weak, and where the simple human principle of helping those in need became the foundation for a new kind of civilization among the stars. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other ancient intelligences watched this development with interest, knowing that the galaxy's youngest species had just announced their presence in the most dramatic way possible. Humanity had arrived, and they had made it clear that they would not tolerate the strong preying upon the weak. The age of human protection had begun.